What happens when an actor walks onto a film set believing they are fully prepared, only to discover that every scene suddenly feels more real than imagination itself? What happens when every rehearsal becomes an emotional storm, every line carries unexpected weight, and every moment pushes even the most confident performer beyond familiar limits? Stay until the very end because this fictional story unfolds through unforgettable behind-the-scenes moments that build toward a breathtaking conclusion that nobody on the production expected. If you enjoy emotional entertainment stories filled with cinematic drama, surprising character moments, and unforgettable fictional scenes inspired by the world of Chinese dramas, then this journey is one you will not want to miss. The studio came alive long before sunrise. Rows of lights stretched across the massive soundstage. Crew members quietly adjusted cameras with practiced precision. The costume department carefully inspected every detail of embroidered robes. Makeup artists prepared brushes beneath glowing mirrors. The director studied page after page of handwritten notes. The production had already earned a reputation for demanding perfection. Every movement mattered. Every pause carried meaning. Every glance between characters had been discussed countless times. No one expected an easy filming schedule, but everyone believed they were ready. Among the first people to arrive that morning was Zhang Linghe. He greeted every crew member with his usual calm smile. He thanked the lighting team. He shook hands with the assistant director. He even stopped to compliment one of the youngest production assistants who had spent all night organizing props. Everything appeared perfectly ordinary. Then another vehicle quietly entered the studio gates. Tian Xiwei stepped out carrying nothing except her script. She smiled politely. She greeted everyone warmly. Nothing about her entrance seemed unusual, yet something immediately felt different. Instead of walking directly toward the makeup room, she slowly wandered through the completed filming set. She touched the wooden railings. She examined every lantern. She stood silently beside the ancient courtyard fountain for several minutes. She carefully studied the architecture as though she had lived there her entire life. Nobody interrupted her. The crew simply watched. One veteran production designer quietly whispered, "She is already inside the story." The younger assistants exchanged curious looks. They had worked with talented performers before, but this felt different. She was no longer observing the environment. She appeared to belong to it. When filming finally began, the atmosphere changed completely. The first scene seemed simple on paper. Two characters sharing an ordinary conversation beneath falling leaves. Nothing dramatic. Nothing physically demanding. Just dialogue. Yet the moment cameras rolled, the entire studio became silent. Even the air seemed to pause. Tian Xiwei spoke her first line. It was soft, measured, almost fragile. Yet every word carried an emotion so convincing that several crew members instinctively stopped moving. Nobody wanted to disturb the moment. Her eyes remained completely focused. Her breathing matched the emotional rhythm of the character. Every tiny expression evolved naturally. Nothing appeared rehearsed. Nothing looked performed. It simply felt real. When the director finally called cut, nobody applauded. Not because they disliked the performance, because they had forgotten they were watching actors. Several seconds passed before anyone remembered they were standing inside a studio. The silence itself became the loudest compliment. Zhang Linghe slowly smiled. He glanced toward the director before quietly saying, "That felt incredibly real." The director laughed. That was only the warm-up. Everyone smiled. Nobody imagined the emotional intensity was only beginning. Throughout the following days, the production entered an entirely different level. Every rehearsal revealed something unexpected. Tian Xiwei constantly searched for deeper emotional layers. She asked detailed questions about her character's childhood. She discussed invisible memories that never appeared inside the script. She imagined conversations that happened years before the story even began. She wrote personal notes beside every page. She even created imaginary letters between scenes that audiences would never see. At first, everyone simply admired the dedication. Eventually, they realized those invisible details were changing every performance. Her reactions became impossible to predict. Every take felt fresh. Every emotional beat arrived naturally. No two rehearsals were identical. One afternoon, Zhang Linghe watched quietly from behind the monitor after completing his own scene. The assistant director joined him. Neither of them spoke for several moments. Finally, the assistant quietly asked, "Can you predict what she will do next?" Zhang Linghe smiled. "Honestly, not anymore. And maybe that is what makes every scene exciting." The assistant laughed. "You actually look nervous before every rehearsal now." He laughed as well. "Maybe a little. She keeps finding emotions I never expected. That means I have to become even better." Word slowly spread throughout the production. Actors who were not scheduled to work began quietly watching rehearsals from behind the cameras. Costume designers delayed lunch breaks. Lighting technicians remained inside the studio even after finishing adjustments. Everyone wanted to witness what might happen next. One particular afternoon became unforgettable. The script described a quiet conversation between two characters separated by misunderstanding. Simple dialogue. Nothing extraordinary. The director expected perhaps 3 takes. Instead, something remarkable happened. Before cameras rolled, Tian Xiwei asked everyone for 5 minutes of silence. No phones. No conversations. No unnecessary movement. The crew respectfully agreed. She quietly stood alone beneath a large window where sunlight poured across the ancient wooden floor. She closed her eyes. Nobody knew what she was thinking. Nobody interrupted. When filming finally began, the atmosphere transformed instantly. Her voice trembled naturally. Her breathing subtly changed. Her eyes reflected countless emotions without exaggeration. The entire scene unfolded with extraordinary honesty. Zhang Linghe responded instinctively. Instead of following the exact rhythm discussed during rehearsal, he reacted naturally to everything unfolding before him. Neither performer appeared to be acting. They simply existed inside the moment. When the director called cut, nobody moved. Even experienced crew members appeared emotional. One camera operator quietly wiped away tears. The sound engineer slowly removed his headphones without speaking. Finally, the director stood. He looked around the silent studio. Then he quietly said, "That is why people fall in love with storytelling." Later that evening, the cast gathered for dinner. Conversations filled the restaurant. People laughed, shared stories, celebrated another successful day. Eventually, someone asked Zhang Linghe what it felt like working opposite such an emotionally immersive performer. He thought carefully before answering. Then he smiled. "Sometimes I walk into rehearsal believing I know exactly how the scene will unfold. 5 minutes later, everything changes. She makes every moment feel alive. It challenges me in the best possible way." The table became quiet. Several younger actors listened carefully. One of them finally asked, "Does that ever feel overwhelming?" He laughed warmly. "Sometimes. But only because real growth usually begins where comfort ends." Those words quickly spread across the fictional production. Assistant directors repeated them. Acting coaches discussed them. Young performers wrote them inside notebooks. Growth begins where comfort ends. From that day forward, the atmosphere around the project subtly changed. Nobody wanted easy scenes anymore. Everyone welcomed creative challenges. The crew became more adventurous. The actors explored new emotional possibilities. The director encouraged experimentation. Mistakes were no longer viewed as failure. They became opportunities to discover something unexpected. Weeks later, the production reached one of its most emotionally demanding sequences. Rain machines filled the enormous outdoor set. Towering lights illuminated the artificial storm. Wind machines shook trees. Costumes became soaked. Every technical department worked together with incredible precision. The director gathered everyone together before filming. He looked across the exhausted crew. Today is not about perfection. Today is about honesty. Remember why these characters matter. The cameras rolled. The scene unfolded with breathtaking emotional intensity. Every expression, every pause, every glance, every word seemed completely authentic. When filming finished, applause erupted across the entire set. Not because someone had achieved technical perfection, because everyone felt they had witnessed something special. That evening, the director organized a small celebration inside the production studio. Nothing extravagant. Just simple food, music, conversation, laughter. Crew members exchanged stories about the filming journey. The lighting department thanked the costume team. The camera operators congratulated the makeup artists. Everyone celebrated together. Near the end of the evening, someone asked Zhang Linghe what lesson he would carry forward from the experience. He paused, looked around the room, then answered quietly. Working beside someone who commits so deeply reminds you that talent alone is never enough. Curiosity matters. Preparation matters. Listening matters. And sometimes another person's dedication challenges you to discover strengths you never knew you had. The room erupted into applause. Not because the words sounded dramatic, because everyone recognized the truth hidden inside them. Months later, according to this story, many crew members still remembered that production. They remembered the long rehearsals, the laughter between scenes, the endless script discussions, the unforgettable performances. But more than anything else, they remembered how one actor's commitment inspired another actor to raise his own standard even higher. The story became less about competition and more about mutual respect. Less about proving who is better and more about discovering how great performances often emerge when talented people inspire one another instead of trying to outshine one another. Perhaps that is the greatest lesson hidden inside this fictional tale. True artists are not intimidated by excellence. They are inspired by it. Real growth rarely happens inside comfort. It begins the moment someone else's passion encourages you to become the finest version of yourself. And sometimes the most unforgettable performances are not created by one remarkable actor alone, but by two dedicated performers whose commitment continually pushes each other towards something extraordinary that neither could have achieved alone.